recording. So let me go ahead and record. It should also focus on a product or a process that should happen by the end of the meeting or the end of a certain number of meetings. Okay. So some processes may need more than 1 week to work through. It's not, I think, healthy if it's a really big process that you're trying to build to help improve something on your campus. Don't force it to happen through one meeting. If it needs time to be developed, then feel free to take 2 or 3 meetings if that's what's needed to really get a great process going. And the objective should lead to some type of follow-up. So something should be done, and as a result, we should either be checking back or it should spur this other thing to happen. An example of an objective for a literacy team meeting is by the end of this literacy team meeting, members will analyze walkthrough data of whole group time to determine areas of strength and weakness in regards to students being tracked. We're talking specifically about students with disabilities and areas of concern. So either unmute or in the chat, tell me, what do you think? Why do you think this is a good objective? What are some things happening inside of this objective that you would want to see in your own literacy team meeting objectives? I'm looking at that last bullet at the bottom in italics. By the end of the literacy team meeting, members will analyze walkthrough data. That. What about this is something we want to have in an objective that we're creating for a literacy team meeting?
It guides us on what it is we're there for, and then keeps in mind our goals for the year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to write it down also and talk.
Yeah, and you don't feel like you need to write it down, because remember, I'm always going to post the recording to an email to y'all as well as the slide deck. So you will have this as an example, and I'll email anything else y'all need. I can definitely send to y'all. But yes, it kind of gives you that. We have so many things happening on campus that and literacy may definitely be a priority on campus. But when we're not this laser focused on like exactly what should happen inside of that meeting, sometimes we meet, we have great intentions for what should happen inside of it. We think we have a good solid plan. We come back next week or next, every other week, and we didn't see anything happen inside of that because we weren't tight enough in really what the purpose is that should be getting done. So like I said, this is not exactly what you have to have. This is not a requirement of the grant. This really is just to give you guidance, because writing objectives this way really helped to guide my work for 5 years, as a literacy coach and administrator, with what should be coming out as a result, really led to productive meetings, to changes happening across the campus. Okay. Is there any other explanation I can do on how I came up with that objective? Or do you feel confident in writing something like this to guide you in your work in literacy team meetings?
I think another important part of this objective is that there's a time frame there.
Yes.
So it tells us by the end of this meeting. And so I think it's important that we look at when do we want to accomplish this objective or this goal that we're setting. So that time frame, I think, is important as well.
Thanks, Brandy. Yeah, definitely. And like I said, don't feel like you have to force it inside of a meeting if it's a big burly thing that you're trying to do. But this is definitely something that we could make happen in a meeting. It really helps, especially, you have a couple different people in your literacy team meetings. You probably have administrators, you have yourself, maybe you have some teachers. This kind of just keeps everybody on track. If they're not as into the weeds as you are in this work, it kind of lets them really know this is what we need to happen by the end. This is the time frame. Here's the people involved, and here's what's going to happen. And this allows us to kind of come back and say, okay, what exactly did we do in past meetings, and how successful were we in getting that to happen moving forward? Okay. So creating an agenda, and most of you are NIET, either best practices or full TAP schools. A couple of y'all are not, and that is A-okay. This particular model comes from NIET, and the reason why I use this one is because, one, I had success using this kind of agenda, but two, y'all are all in the School Support Institute, and NIET is who really partners along with TNTP to help host the School Support Institute. So I just figured it was probably something y'all already pretty connected to in most cases. So for your agenda, it kind of follows this 5 effective steps of learning. And sometimes we have meetings and we're like, why do we have that meeting? And so we try to kind of want to avoid asking ourselves this question. And if we always have a very specific need, like we have student data, we have qualitative or quantitative data for why we're having that, then we're not wasting our time or anybody else's time, because it's very clear for why we're having that meeting. What is the student need that has designated it as a priority? Okay. And you're not alone in this work. That's the most important thing I think I take away from the agenda, because you're one person on this whole literacy team, and you're kind of utilizing and leveraging all the people that are a part of your team, whether it's district team or school team, to help you come up with and decide and prioritize these needs. Okay. So that's the first part. The second part is, how are the people in this meeting going to obtain new learning? Who is going to present that? A lot of times it's probably you, the literacy innovation coordinator, but sometimes it might not be. Sometimes it might be, I know, for instance, like Point Coupé has like a mentor teacher, and they're like the exemplar teacher that is making the strategy happen on campus. Sometimes they might present the new learning and how it's happening in their classroom so that it can be spread across the rest of the campus. Okay. So what new information will be presented and who is presenting it so that it can be, the need can be met. So after you know what the need is, and after they have obtained, the people in the meeting have obtained new learning, we want to give them time to kind of develop the new learning. What will participants do with this new learning so that the need will be satisfied? We don't want to just get up and have a presentation and everybody leave. Then we're not really impacting anything. We're not making a huge difference. Okay. Then we're going to apply the learning. What will be done in the classroom or across the campus as a result of the developed learning to fix the need. And then after we've done all that, we want to have time in between this meeting and another one, whether it's the next one or a month from now, where we want to evaluate the effectiveness. When the new learning was applied in the classroom, what happened as a result? You know, is the need addressed, or does it need further implementation or further investigation? Maybe it didn't go exactly how we thought it would go. Okay. So let's look at an example to determine how the different parts were constructed, okay? Okay, so this is Pelican Elementary. This is a fictitious school. This is not a real school or a real need, but Pelican Elementary Literacy Team Meeting, okay? So we have, you can do the long range plan week number up here, like this is week 2 in our long range plan, date, the attendees can sign in on this. And then I kind of just structured the top with what we talked about in session 1 of School Support Institute. So what is your program focus goal? This example school has 100% of grade levels will conduct monthly literacy data reviews to discuss student progress. The teacher focus goal is that by the end of the school year, or by end of September 2023, all new teachers will receive initial training on this high quality instructional materials that you're using on campus. And then student focus goal, by the end of 2025 school year, 95% of third graders will read 112 words correct per minute, and 100% of students in grades 9 through 12 will receive reading intervention, will meet their individual growth goal and fluency. These were actually examples that were given to you inside of SSI School Support Institute. So I figured we would just use them. I say these and I read these to you because we want to make sure that the need is aligned to these goals. We always have these goals in the forefront. We took time to develop them, and we want to make sure that we're working towards them. So having them on our agenda kind of allows us to make sure that these objectives are aligned to that as well. It's kind of guiding our work. Okay, then it has the little 5 steps that I talked to you about. And then it says by the end of this literacy team meeting, that's our goal, our objective, that we just talked about. Oh, this one's actually different. I made 2 for y'all. Members will analyze reading intervention data to determine what students are meeting their individual growth fluency goal and compile a list of students and possibly teachers who need more support. Okay, so this was actually a high school example that I developed because we had a need that we wanted to see more high school, but it definitely applies to other grade levels as well. Anybody who's doing fluency, this agenda could apply to. Okay, so why do we even have this meeting? Students are not all progressing in their individual fluency goals. Okay, we've been looking at that, and it's a problem. How we're going to develop, who's going to present the new learning, what's going to happen? The Literacy Innovation Coordinator will model the process for how to analyze the data and where to compile a list of students and teachers. So sometimes we take for granted that the people that are in these meetings really understand what they're looking for inside of the data and what the data is going to be used for. So this might take like 3 or 4 minutes. This is not a huge, big model deal, a big deal or a model that has to happen, but just kind of walking the participants through exactly what they should be looking for inside of the data and where that's going, what the purpose of that is. So then the literacy team members will analyze that student data to determine who's not meeting their goal. And then the application is that the members will construct a list of students and identify trends of students concentrated in certain classes. So maybe you notice that out of the 40 students you're monitoring with students with disabilities, maybe you notice that 12 students are not meeting their fluency goal. And out of those 12 students, let's say that 7 of them are in one teacher's class, right? Looking at that data tells us that we might do something to help support that teacher, because if a lot of students aren't growing inside of there, there's something maybe not just with the individual students, but maybe the teacher needs some more support as well. Okay. Follow up. So what will take place by the next meeting, and you can assign this to whoever is in the meeting, whatever stakeholders you think would have a big part of this. Okay. All right, so let's look back at our questions. What needs to happen by the end of this meeting? What's the goal? By the end of this meeting, what are we hoping will happen?
Say that again.
By the end of this meeting, what are we hoping will happen? What's the goal by the end of this meeting?
Is to have a complete list of those students who are not meeting their individual growth in fluency, their goals.
Exactly, Ms. Antoinette. We need a list. This is what should happen by the end of this meeting. What may happen as a result of this meeting? So say that we went through and we found out who was not progressing. What might happen as a result of this meeting? What could some follow-up be?
Looking at looking at the intervention that we have the child in, and determining whether or not there are some teacher practices that we need to look at, or if the intervention is actually the intervention that the student needs to be in.
Okay, so maybe we might need to make some individual tweaks to the intervention. Maybe there's a specific teacher that needs some specific help. What else might happen? What are some other possibilities for follow-up of what we might find or what might lead to? What might happen if I notice that maybe 5 students aren't progressing and they're all in different teachers' classes? What might that lead to?
Possible SBLC to determine whether, if there's other handicapping disabilities that may be preventing the child from progress, and looking at the students' attendance. Are these students actually coming to school on a regular basis? Other root causes to why they're not progressing.
Great. So I just want to kind of y'all to think through the whole gambit. It might lead to further data dive. Like maybe there's other types of data that need to be looked at. Maybe it might lead to some other identifications of other exceptionalities. Maybe it might just be that the goals are too ambitious for that student. We really need to look, or maybe there needs to be other scaffolds inside of there that help them. So I just wanted to have y'all's brain around A, what should happen as a result of this meeting, and B, what could possibly progress from a literacy team meeting. Okay. And we kind of talked about where they would go next. Any questions about this agenda, guys, or where I pulled something, where I came up with something from, or? Nope. Okay. Let's jump back in. All right, so drafting an objective and an agenda. Now it's time for you to consider what materials or data you will need to draft your own objective and your own agenda. if you have created a long range plan since we met last month, or you did one prior to that, I would love to hear one of your objectives. And it doesn't have to be the exact same format of what I used. I really kind of want to just hear what are some different objectives that you have that are kind of guiding your work inside your literacy team meetings.
So we haven't finished our, we just finished the literacy plan, and we're working on the long range plan.
That's perfect, Bonnie, because I know y'all are just starting from scratch. What's something you might dig into as you're starting? What are some things y'all are looking at to kind of consider as you're starting your literacy team meetings? What topics?
Right now it's just right now we're just looking at the data to find out where the biggest need is,
Okay.
and then how to actually support that subgroup that that the grant is based around.
Yeah, so identifying who even needs like the innovations, right? And then what could we potentially do for the innovation, right? Perfect. Thanks for sharing.
I can share one of our most recent objectives. So through walkthrough, the feedback from walkthroughs and data from walkthroughs, we have identified that we needed to develop a success criteria for annotating plans, because what we realized was that, not what we realized, but what we know is that there's a direct link between those teachers that internalize those lesson plans and the quality of instruction. And so from those walkthroughs, we realized that we needed to have that success criteria for annotated plans and go through that. District, we went through that with our principals, our school administrators. And so what we did is we took that success criteria. They went through an exemplar annotated plan, and then they created an exemplar annotated plan based off of one of their teachers' lesson plans from this past week. And then they're gonna, they talked about the qualities and the impact on instruction. And then they're gonna go through that same process with their ILT team. And then that same process will carry through into LLCs as well with teachers. So realizing that we really needed to take a step back and go through what it truly looks like when you internalize a lesson plan, and how that applies to the classroom and in instruction and affects the quality of instruction and student success. So I know that was long-winded, but
that's great.
That was just our latest based off of walkthrough data, and really looking at what does this high quality curricula say should be happening, the rigor of it and alignment with the standards, and then taking that step back and actually doing the walkthrough and seeing what was actually happening in the classroom.
That's perfect. And you're kind of seeing two opposite ends of the spectrum, because where Brandy and them are is they've had this innovation in place now for a year. And so then they're seeing, okay, it's transferring in most places. Maybe it's not transferring in some places. So what's happening there? How can we help build capacity there? And they've identified the fact that potentially internalizing some of the curriculum could really help. And to be honest, any of those of you that have the pre-teaching innovation, that's a great place to go, because teachers that, we have this progression with the curriculum, right? The first step is just to read it like it's in the manual, because they're just trying to even figure out what's even in the curriculum. Then as they're progressing, we're trying to get them, like Brandy's saying, is help them to internalize. A lot of people don't understand why certain moves are in the curriculum and the power that those moves hold. So that could be a great place, depending on where you are in your development of the innovation, for you to go to. Anybody else want to share? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about what materials or data you might need to either create an agenda or an objective? Okay, so I want every single person to put in the chat on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident do you feel with your ability to create an objective and an agenda for a literacy team meeting? 5 meaning you really feel comfortable with doing this. 1 meaning you have no idea where to start and I need to provide you with some support. Go ahead and put in the chat, where are you 1 to 5 with your ability to make an objective and an agenda? Okay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. This really helps me because then I can really see who I need to definitely schedule time for and who can kind of keep rolling. And thank y'all for your honesty in that. Okay, I think I got everybody. Yes, perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so we talked about some resources last month. I wanted just to make sure I updated you on the most recent resources that are out there. So continue as always to check back for updates, but the LIFT library is there. We're constantly adding new intervention pieces. Fire Unit 2 is available. So make sure if you're looking for the next unit in the fire lessons for grades 3 through 5, those are there. The content literacy support documents, there are 5 new that are uploaded. So they currently have 11 documents there. And I want to talk about this real quick because I hosted, some of y'all were able to jump on. Keys to Literacy is one of our science of reading providers for training. And they have, the founder of Keys to Literacy is Joan Sedita. She's done a ton of work around adolescent literacy. And they had an adolescent literacy reading intervention training. Some of y'all attended. One thing that came up in the training is that we've developed this content literacy support library, and I don't think there's enough awareness around it, like what it even is or how to use it or why it would even apply. I wanted to make sure that I explained something. These 11 supports that are here can be used inside of any content area. It should be used, especially in classrooms where students are having trouble accessing the Tier 1 curriculum as is. These are moves for the teachers to make. A lot of time these moves are in the curriculum, but they don't give explicit instruction for how the teacher should perform these things. So if you're walking in and you're doing walkthroughs on your campus and you're noticing that the teachers might be doing, for instance, a partner read, but is it really improving fluency inside the classroom? Is it really helping to build students' capacity inside of literacy? If the answer is no, dive into this and see how you can help leverage that with the students. Okay. Thanks, Miss Antoinette. And Lisa's putting the links there in case you don't have them, but I'm definitely going to have the slide deck for you. So all of these are here. These are great things to use inside, like I said, all of our Tier 1 classrooms using the curriculum, but it really just helps the teachers to internalize the curriculum, which is something we were just talking about. Also, we have 2 series, one that's completely finished and one that's still ongoing. So I did every Wednesday at 3:30, I have a webinar. The first half of that webinar is complete the first series, which was LIFT in upper elementary, middle, and high. So if you click on that link, when I share the slide deck with you in a minute, you will be able to access videos. These are 20 to 30 minute videos, closer to 30 minutes, for exactly how to do every component inside of LIFT. And then Sarah did science of reading and literacy intervention tools for paraprofessionals and support staff. That's there. And then upcoming every Wednesday at 3:30, I'm still going now and through, I believe, maybe the first week of December. The schedule's there with the Zoom link, will be the content literacy series in action. Like exactly how do we use these inside of the classroom? Okay, and then upcoming events, session 2 of School Support Institute will be the week of October 25th. This is our first half day and it's virtual. It's only 9 to 12, it's virtual. Session 3 will not be until the last week of January. These are pretty spaced out because we know how important, your time in the school is. So this one will be back to in person. It's 9 to 3. Everybody will be in the same location with the exception of my New Orleans cohort. You will not be at that hotel again. I believe it's the Morial Convention Center that we're at for the next 2 sessions. Office hours for next month is Friday, November 4th at 11 a.m. Remember, these are optional. You do not have to go. And then our next COP, I bolded this. I want to start, highlighted everything. I'm hoping y'all are okay. If you're not, just reach out to me via email. But the Friday that it was scheduled for, the next COP was Veterans Day. Most schools are closed that day. So I wanted to have it that Thursday prior to at 11 a.m. If this is a huge conflict, please let me know because the COPs are mandatory. So that is it, guys. Let me unshare. We have 6 minutes left. So if there's anything that y'all have, any questions that you have, you can unmute and ask. If there's anything that you want to collaborate on, we have a few minutes to do that.
Can everybody hear me?
A little bit, Jordan's kind of cutting it out, but we can hear you mostly. Are you talking? Because we can't hear you now. You there, Jordan?
She may be frozen.
She might be. I'm gonna put in the chat. And y'all all have my number, but just in case someone puts that in the chat too. If you have any questions, let me know. Either email me, call me, whatever y'all need to help. Botany, I'm scheduled to come see y'all on Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to that. And whatever I can do. Thanks, Bridget. Y'all have a great weekend too. Whatever help you need, just have your questions ready for me so I can dive in and kind of help. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
8 o'clock. Yeah, I think it's 8 o'clock Wednesday. So I'll see you then.
Sounds perfect. Can't wait.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, then y'all have a fantastic weekend.
You too.